Welcome back to the Incredible Machines podcast, where we sit down with incredible people doing incredible things in an effort to learn just what makes them so incredible. In this episode, we speak to the inspiring Mpume Zwane Langa, an entrepreneur and leader whose journey from the townships of Durban to the heights of corporate banking and beyond is nothing short of incredible. We talk about living with authenticity, saying yes to opportunity, and redefining success on your own terms. This conversation is a powerful reminder that your story, no matter where it starts, can shape into something truly incredible. Without further ado, let's dive in with the incredible Mpume Zwane Langa. If you could go back in time to your 16-year-old self, what would you tell yourself?
Whoa, 16-year-old. You know, that was the time when the country was transitioning from apartheid to a democracy. I was caught in that. I was a whole different person then. If I would go back, I would say to myself, this is time for your dreams to be realized. Go headstrong and let nothing stop you.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so were you born in Durban? Where do you want to take us way back?
Yes, I will tell you. I am from KwaMashu. That is a Durban township, KwaMashu, born and bred. Grew up there. And I've got 2 older sisters. I'm the youngest. My mother was married but then got divorced, and she raised us by herself. And I always say my mother was a wise woman. She sacrificed a lot to the family, for the family, a bigger family as well, and for us. But the one thing that I always admire her for was she always shared her fears. She always shared her dreams. She shared the things that spoke to her openly. And she gave the rawest advice you could ever have. This one time, I won't say which sister, one of my sisters had this man that was coming to meet her. And the guy looked like he does drink alcohol. And my mother said to her, "Are you sure you love this man? He drinks." And my mom didn't like alcohol. I don't drink as well, even up to now. And she said, "Yeah, I love him." He says, "Are you sure you're going to stand by that?" And I'm a nurse. She was a nurse. She said, "I'm a nurse. I know the things that alcohol does to a man. Don't come and complain to me in future, because I will laugh at you straight to your face." And I won't say the details now because the family podcast, but she was blatant like that in terms of advice and being honest to us. And I'm thankful because she instilled almost a sense of being authentic as a person. If you would argue with her, you'll argue with her directly, and she will tell you her views, will tell you her views as well. Yes, she passed away when I was, I think, 21 years old at the time. I wish I had more time with her, but she framed who I became in terms of living truthfully and living as myself and not trying to hold back on who I am or to please other people as well. Yes, some of us are pleasers at a young age. We often are like that. But even though I was a part pleaser, I always wanted to be my true self. If I didn't fit well in the space, I would see I don't fit well. I would bide my time and know I've got a plan for this. Once achieved, I'll then move on. So yes, from KwaMashu up, and I went to school in KwaMashu. And I always say I spoke English only after school because we're taught in Zulu. I mean, maths was in Zulu, English was taught in Zulu as well, and Afrikaans was taught in Zulu. So we used to memorize all our compositions for the exams. My dog, you'll know what to say and what to write because you'll give me some marks. But in doing that, I always say I am a true reflection of someone who was impacted by apartheid and who've also seen the potential of this country. And in that, have raised children who are not threatened, because I didn't want to raise kids who will bear the apartheid burden on them. I wanted them to be raised in a space of just be you, let's see where your you takes you to. Because my mother almost raised us like that as well. So after that, I was lucky enough to have met a lady, because after matric, I had to work. I couldn't go study right away because I didn't have enough money for that. So I had to go work for 2 years, and I had a job. I worked for the very first black man who had an IT degree in the country, Joe Madlala. He had a computer company, JPN Technologies. It was in the 90s, actually. He's in the US. He left for the US later on, and I got a job. I did some computer. We still had the floppy disks at the time, and then it moved to Stiffy Discs at that time as well. So I was there. I learned a bit about computers. I then taught in the school for a few years. But she had this lady who worked for her, SMA. SMA became my first mentor in life. And that's why I believed in having a mentor somewhere, somehow. And in meeting her, my life took a different turn. Because having come from KwaMashu, being raised by a mother, and only being exposed to the life I had in the township. I mean, I only went to town once a year to buy Christmas clothes. As in Durban Central, because we never really left town, and I went to school. But the one thing that I always pride myself on is I've always knew life was bigger than what I've seen around me. And I've always known that there is more to be explored. And there's an advert that used to come on radio. Okay, growing up, we had radio.
Yeah.
As our way of escapism. TV wasn't as much, it was more radio. Radio dramas were there, all of that. And my mother would tell us stories as if she was at a place, but she had them on radio, most of them on the books. And through that, one was able to almost see what life could give you. And that's what I said to myself, okay, I want to work for government, because post-apartheid, I work for government and make a difference. I studied public administration at DUT. It's now called DUT. Emma Sultan at the time is how old I am, you can tell. I did that. On the third day of my studies, my mom passed away. And I had to find a way to live. And I thought, okay, I got to find a job. And there was an advert in the paper for bank trainees at a bank. And I was like, okay, I did public admin, government idea for a job, won't work. Let me just put my application here, see what happens. I forgot to mention something. During my 2 years of work before I went to study, actually, something interesting happened. My wonderful mentor that a lady called Sma, decided that, Mpume, you are so pretty, you're so beautiful. Go try modeling. I'm like, nah, I can't model. And there was this big post, Miss Durban beauty pageant. She put my name in there to then go contest. And she bought me a dress, her own dress. This is going to be for eliminations. Go with this, did my face, go in there. Go there, tell them who you are, go stand like this, stand like that. And she showed what to do. I went in there, I did exactly that. It was at Elangeni Hotel at the time. And I was selected to be in the pageant. So from my township times to becoming a model. And I was in that pageant, which again opened up a whole new world for me, because in that we're now exposed to people who've traveled the world, who've come here, we were being driven in Kushasha's BMW convertibles, with the girls. We had fashion designers coming to show us clothes. And life was like, oh, this could be better. And that moment made me realize that actually you can't plan life. Life will go in its own form, in its own way, take its own turns, because what is meant for you will find you. And interestingly, I got in there, in that pageant, and I was in there. I was a second runner-up in the pageant. With my limited English that I could speak and with no modeling experience, I made it. So yeah, and fast forward, got into banking, and I spent 20 years in banking. In banking, I went in there as a learner. I was going to be a teller. I was like, nah, I can't be a teller. I got bigger dreams than being a teller. I remember going to my manager and saying, look, program is over. I can't be a teller. You need to find me a better job, because I want to be a manager. I want to manage people. I want to be the boss. And they said, look, they laughed at me to my face. Look, you can't do that. I said, look, I know I can't do that, but you know what? I want to be a manager. The guy said, you have a contract. You're going to go to the branch and be a teller. If you do not become a teller, you're going to pay us back the money for the training. At the time, about 80,000 rand or so. I was like, whoa, so much money. I can't. I said, look, okay, I negotiate. I like to negotiate. I'm not. Give me 1 week to go find a job anywhere else in the bank besides a branch as a teller. They said, before that, I actually didn't come to work. I was off for 3 days. They said, if you don't come back, we're going to be, it's called abscondment. You're going to be fired for them. No, I'm going to come back to work. And just give me 1 week to find a job somewhere else.
Sorry, I can pause you. Yeah. How did you come up with that idea? How did you think to come up with that? So you had, was it during the 3 days you thought, I'll approach him with this? I
did not want to be a teller. I did not want to be at the branch counting money, because it looked like my life will end. Because growing up, I had always seen my mother would go to the bank and to get the money on payday, and there'd be this trust bank. There was this old lady who was a teller. She was always there. From the time I remember, she was always behind that counter. She never went anywhere.
So it seemed like a dead
end.
end.
And I could not see myself behind that counter for life. Until I aged, I looked like her as counting money. I was like, I can't do that. So for me, teller meant behind the counter and aging ungracefully, if I can call it that, because I had bigger dreams than that.
Did you manage to speak to your mentor? You mentioned a mentor. I want to know how you, because I love that
How
you
we
just
kept in
came,
touch.
So how, no, but also how you came up with that. I'm gonna give me the opportunity to look for another job within. Like, how did that come to you? You slept on it. It just came to you.
It was just me trying to escape something I don't want to be part of. You know, when you don't want something, you find a way out.
Yeah. So there's something you said. It made me think of it. But sometimes I do that. I go to sleep with big questions. And I have the answers in the morning, so it's something divine potentially.
Sleep on it,
and then something that you said was that it's reminded me of that. So we make plans and God laughs.
Yes,
so
thank you. That is so true because it was, you're gonna be a teller. I'm like, I'm gonna be a teller. I know there's more to me than being a teller, and if I allow this to happen to myself, I can't end like this. I just saw a dead end and my life ending at this level, and I didn't want to do that. And I said, look, give me a week. They gave me a week, and I found a job in insurance department in the bank.
Okay.
And I went door to door looking for job different managers. And this lady, Cindy, she said, okay, I'll give you a chance. I'll give you a month, see how you do. I was the happiest. I went and said, look, I got a job. It's not in a branch. I won't be a teller. And then that's how my career in banking started. And then I spent 20 years in banking, no, 21 years, but I think about 20 years. And in that journey, I honestly can say I discovered my fears. I discovered my courage. I discovered my own personal self-limiting beliefs. I discovered my hunger to do bigger things and do better things. But in that, I discovered the leader in me. I discovered I love leading people. I love working with people in teams, even though I also like being alone, but I somehow am able to understand people and bring about what is best for them, for themselves. Because my first value in life is freedom. So freedom defines who I am. I cannot be in a space where I'm restricted. I can't be in an environment where I feel I'm not allowed to be me. And if I then get cornered, I rebel. It's a natural instinct. I mean, I am an apartheid child of South Africa, obviously, for an activist. So that comes out more often. And by understanding that in myself, I allowed myself to reinvent myself along the way and not try and put one label and stick by that label. Because for me, life is not about a label. Life is about discovering the different personas that live in you and exploring them for however long it can take you. And then later on,
on living many lives in one life.
Yes, thank you. You live many lives in one life. That is so true because truly you do. If I look back to my childhood, I mean, I had my first business when I was about in primary, 5, 6 years old, because my mother worked. She was alone, and I went to school a bit far. I had to take a bus to go to school, and it meant I must have money for the bus coupon for school, and I had to make a plan. And I sold it's called ice lollies, but a homemade one with a knot. Yeah, I sold that. I sold some sweets at home. My mother sold everything else. She sold drinks, paraffin, ice, whatever she could sell. But my niche was ice lollies and the sweets.
From when you were 6 years old?
Yes. And actually it was 5 because I was in school when I was 4 years old because I had 2 sisters. The older one taught me to write, much, much younger. At 4 years old, I could write my name. I could understand what I was writing. And then my crash principal said, I remember this very, very well because of conversation. I can remember, I got a good memory. I was about, I think 4 years old. My mother brought me as the year started to school, to crash. And then she says, what am I going to teach this child? She can write her name. She can read her name. Why is she here? And then she says, but it's a crash. She's young. And then she says, no, send her to school. I can't teach her anything else. My mom, she just stood and said, but how? She's too young to go to school. She said, but I can't teach her anything. Luckily, on my same street where I lived, the grade 1 teacher lived on the same street, but at a school not in my neighborhood, in a different area. She said, look, I will take her with me. and see how she does for a few months. If she's coping, she'll stay. If not, she'll bring it back to crash. And then I went to school. Did my 4 years. I got my uniform. I didn't have a uniform for a month. First month, I had no uniform. I was in my own clothes. I went with her to school for my grade 1. I coped, apparently. I coped well. And I stayed.
So you would have finished school at least 2 years?
Yeah, much. I was always the youngest. I was 2 years younger than most people in my classes. But I had another girl who was my age as well. So I was never alone as the youngest. But in me being the youngest, I could be naughty. I was naughty in school. I could be naughty. Even in matric, I was so naughty. I remember so well. I was just, this naughty child because I think I was much more younger. But I also think as much as the blessing, but I could have been a child for longer.
So you think you grew up. There's a few things there, I think, saying, so from what I've heard, it's great. You mentioned it. I heard you say you've got a great memory. Actually, there's a direct correlation with memory and IQ, and the better the memory, the higher the IQ is said. So just know that's a great compliment. And then, so that would have made it. Also reinforces what you said. Now you've gone in earlier to school and you finished earlier and that sort of stuff, as well as it ties in with disagreeability that comes later on life when you started as you were selling stuff and very early in age, and then in life, as well as we're going to get to the entrepreneurial ventures later on. But the disagreeability would be that, as well as I think people get with higher IQs, they might get bored quicker with the school level that everyone else is at. And maybe that was the thing, and can make excuses. Maybe it was a maturity too.
No. I won't agree with that. Bored. That is so true, because if I remember in school, at grade 3, I had a beautiful handwriting. I always say to my kids, I write terrible now, horrible handwriting now. But growing up at grade 3, my teacher used to give me a scheme book. I think it was called a scheme book then, where they put lesson plans or whatever. And during break, she'll call me in and say, look, sit here, rewrite these things for me. She'll say, write this on this book for me, because I wrote so neatly. And I think it taught me patience in a space of not being patient, because kids would be playing outside. I'll be in the classroom, in the front row, teacher table over there, me next to her, just writing on her book on her behalf, because she says you write so neatly. It's much work for her. And I think also that taught me I got to understand that work is not about being older. It's about being committed. Because I ran a business at home and I had plans. I remember doing my first marketing gimmick. You might remember this because I think you're older. Nesquik. Not Nesquik, the little, So everyone's ice lollies were made with Kool-Aid or the Esto, where at the little thing with water and sugar. I thought, look, I like nicer things. I can't do this Esto thing. It's terrible. I'll do mine with Nesquik. My mother would buy Nesquik. I said, look, I will save money, buy me Nesquik and milk. And I had I also could call them creamy ice lollies, because they're my creamy ice lollies. So kids would come from everywhere else and buy my ice lollies. Again, it's that thing of not conforming. It's like everyone says this boring stuff. Different. I want something different. I don't like this foreign stuff. And this one time, the big shop, I had this vision now. I think I must have been about maybe 7 or something. Because the shop had their ice lollies in a square format. And mine were in a knotted plastic. I was like, I want mine in the same format as the shop one. So I went in to meet the shopkeeper. I said, look, I want these plastics that you put your ice lollies, because I want mine to be like yours. Because everyone liked the square ones, and they're bigger as well. And he says, look, you can't have this because I buy them as they are. I said, there must be a machine that does this thing somewhere. He says, yeah, but I don't have it. And I remember going back home with my friends, depressed, because I could not have my ice lollies in a different format because there was no machine to make this. And I'm saying this because I had this notion of we need to find a way to make things for ourselves as well, not only just take what's given to us. And my passion for supporting entrepreneurship later on and production and localizing of production was instilled at that young age as well, and somehow carried through in my banking career by supporting entrepreneurs who were actually creating factories. In the end, working for Unilever as well when I was much older as well. So that played a role in my life. The last part of my childhood, I think to mention, something interesting though, is to link up to my daughter's story later on. I must say this. When my mother was married to my father, she had 2 daughters. And then she was pregnant with me now as a third child, with the hope of me being a boy, because boys are important in families, for men especially at that time. And she hoped I'll be a boy. So when I was born, I had all boy toys and boy clothes. So maybe me not being conformist was also fueled by that. I was told I was a boy, and I was, hey, I'm a girl. And I remember having all the motorcycles and cars and all of those toys. And I only bought my first doll with my own money when I was 9 years old.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, that's interesting because it's funny how those play out. But what my point is, we think we're living our own lives. We don't. Mm. We live lives that belong to people who came before us. I can't prove this scientifically, I must be honest. But I believe our genes have memory. And when we are born, we continue some of the memories that are from our parents and our foreparents. And we actually play them out in our lives. And I look at my dreams that I've got. My mom's dreams are very much instilled in me. Some of the things that I've chosen to do in life, if I remember, like, my mother said this, I'm like, Haibo, I'm doing what she wanted me to do. So, and as I become a parent later on in life, I will share a story much later on as a parent, how that story played out in my child and skipped me instead. It's interesting how that plays out.
Okay. So just before we get there, so now you've taken us through studies. You've worked in the bank. I think it was ABSA for a long time, and you climbed the ranks there.
So I joined in ABSA. So when the 4 banks merged, I was in that space of ABSA. I then went, when FNB launched, no, before that, I had a bully as a boss in my ABSA days. And the reason why she bullied me, there was nothing concrete. It was just for being myself. And me being open, sharing my dreams openly and my ambitions openly. And I think she was a middle-aged woman, an Afrikaans woman, middle-aged woman, Afrikaans woman. She never understood why I was so ambitious. She would say, why do you want more? Why do you keep asking for more? And I'll say, because I can have more. There's more that one can have. And it bothered her so much that she would almost make me uncomfortable at work. And she would sing me out in how I do things. And we don't understand the power of bosses and how they impact us. Mm-hmm. Because when someone that you look up to, that you like and you look up to, does that to you, that bullying almost eats into your confidence as well. Because it's almost like being me is wrong. Being me is not the right way to be. I must try and now be what she would like. But then my other self is like, no, you can't be what she likes. What she likes is something is boring. I like what I like, So we clashed quite a bit to a point that I thought, look, I think I must leave this job. And I was a private banker at the time for ABSA. And ABSA just launched private banking division I think it was the first bank that launched private banking. We were a few first private bankers at the time, and we're doing well. I wasn't doing so well because I wasn't as experienced. Most of my clients would say to me, you're so young. I did look young. I was skinny, I looked young, and I was young as well. And I'll have clients coming saying to me, what are you going to advise me about money on? Do you even have money? And I'd be like, no, I don't have money. And then I said to myself, look, there's got to be an angle around this. There's got to be something that I can do about it. And I discovered the power of personal branding. Because personal branding is packaging yourself in a way that appeals to the image you're trying to portray to others. And the same year that I was a private banker, I got married the same year as well. And my husband at the time had this nice, beautiful car he had just bought. And every time I would go see a wealthy client or a high-profile client, I would drive his car and wear a suit. When I go in there, it would be an icebreaker. And I realized the power of finding mechanisms to create a story when meeting someone. Mm. And so my banker career went well, but I left ABSA to FNB.
Just to pause you there, because I got a note in here about labels, and that does tie into labels, but you try to move away from labels as much.
Yes.
Something you want to say on that?
I do. You see, I think labels are limiting. Human beings evolve, and I truly believe we are born to evolve. I always say my other belief is, if you are born to be one thing and you choose not to be, when God gave you the ability and the tools to be that better thing that we could be, and then we don't become that, it's like an insult to God. It's like, God, you made me this great, but I'm going to hold back because I'm afraid of being great. Then why did I create you, my child? You owe it to God to be the greater version of who you're supposed to be. And that's why labels, for me, they're limiting, because we evolve, we change, we learn lessons, we change our minds, we discover that doesn't work for me, maybe I must try a different path. If you put a label, you're almost limiting the potential of thinking differently, because you're trying to remain that label all the time. That's what I don't like labels.
Yeah, no, I love it. And it came back up for me because of you mentioned the personal branding, and it seemed like you like to be in control of that as much as you can.
Yes.
And it is interesting that people just assume because you come in.
Exactly.
So the thing about, I love this quote about communication. I use it often, but it's one of the biggest problems with the communication is the illusion that it's happened. But and if you don't fill in the gaps, it ties into so if you're not filling in the gaps for people, people fill in the gaps themselves. So in the absence of information, we create our own.
Yes.
And so because you didn't necessarily say it was your car, it wasn't your car. They assumed it's your car. They assumed you.
I'm now at the same level as them. As I'm rich and all. I didn't have anything, but because of that.
And we're very visual animals.
We really are visual animals. And that also, I must mention, during my modeling days, because I did some modeling. After I won my beauty pageant, I was given one of the prizes was a course at Lee Downing. It's closed down. So Lee Downing Modeling Agency was a big one in Durban at the time. And when I started doing modeling, I understood that power of impressions, of silhouettes, of presence and all of that, because you get taught those kind of things. And I see how it also added an additional, I think it's almost like a tool into my toolbox of if you package yourself well and you then support that with knowledge, it's a half battle won. And to try and convince people that you are this without them concluding that in the first moment they're meeting you, it's important. So you've got to be what you are saying you are all the time. And you can't do that if you're not authentic. So if you are truly yourself,
it's very difficult to keep that
consistency. You can then
yeah.
present yourself as you are. And we've met people where it's like, I'm missing this person, but I feel like I haven't met them. Something is not there with them. I don't like that. I wanna. You must meet me in my fullest context in the first time you meet me, because in doing that, I have no need to hide who I am to you anymore. Then I can be free to be myself, and I believe in freedom. Again, that's my first value is freedom. I gotta be free to be me all the time.
It's actually one of the things we're loving, Luke and I are loving about podcasts is the ability to convey authenticity through this medium, because we're going to sit for this episode, it's going to be an hour or so, but it's very difficult to pretend to fake it here, because we just
I would imagine so.
Yeah,
yes.
so it's, and people in this world that we over stimulated by AI and overwhelmed by AI, this real stuff is just so important, and so people craving it. So.
It is. I agree. And for me, the one thing I always say is another tool in a toolbox that one must always have. It's okay to walk away from something if it doesn't serve you anymore, doesn't work for you anymore, and try something else. And all of us are fluking it. I mean, in corporate, my 23 years in corporate, one thing I've learned: all of us have no clue what we're doing. We all are doing the best we can every day. And once we understand that, it is so empowering, because we realize I have nothing to try and fit into. I can only fit into what I create for myself. Yes, maybe molded into a certain culture in the corporate environment to try and fit into it. But in that, there must be room for you to be yourself.
Yeah.
And if you do that and you embrace that, I'm going to make a mistake, I'm going to lose somewhere, I'm going to win somewhere else, it's almost like life is just life. Life is just life. There is no right way of doing it or wrong way of doing it. If you don't harm anybody, you don't cause anyone pain, you just are true to yourself and coming from a place of love, I think that's enough to be. And not having a label allows you to give yourself a permission to evolve whenever you feel like evolving and not be stuck in your older version of yourself.
I love that. And I love what you said there. We're all trying. People are just trying their best.
Yes.
And I think that in general, and it's true, And that rule I've also applied, or that statement I've applied in a way that has allowed me to forgive people.
Yes,
because they're just trying their best. We're all just trying our best at the end of the day. Sometimes their best isn't good enough, and that's fine. That is what it is. Like,
but good enough according to whom? Whose benchmark is that?
Yeah, so I'll give you the example. So we're doing this campaign at the moment as part of our agency. It's called "Isn't It Incredible?" And it's because it's such an incredible time to be alive. Like you'll know, like what you were talking about in your story, and your kids, what they have now at their fingertips versus the past. It's way better to be alive now. Statistically, if you look at the numbers, it's way better.
Yes,
it's actually way better. And I got to frame this right because it can be cut in, and you can be strawmanned. So I got to be careful how I say this, but it's actually way better statistically to be a female than it's ever been. But it's still not good enough. We're still not there.
Oh, yeah.
So because I can say that people, you agree with me.
No,
you agree with me.
I do. Yeah.
But then I'll see a tweet out. This is an old tweet, and I'm sorry to go on the negative route. But there's a yin and yang. So the negative tweet that I remind people of when I do as a caveat, I say that it's never been better to be alive, and it's never been better to be these things. Is that there's a tweet that said, "Dear women or dear girls, or ladies." What would you do in the next 24 hours if there were no men left on the planet?
Oh, wow.
Have you seen the answers to that tweet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so maybe I'll put it in the show notes as a link to this. It's like, I'd go for a walk at night. I'd go running during the day.
Yes.
So as much as it is, so that makes me incredibly sad, incredibly. So I want to move away from the sadness and to the light. But you got to hold those two things.
Yes.
So it's never been better, but we still got work to do.
We do.
We got lots of work to do.
No, we do.
Okay, and you've done a lot of work. So we were, before I interrupted you, we were transitioning to F&B in the private.
Yes. And F&B was also launching their private bank. So I met one of their leaders at a conference where my friend who worked for F&B won some award. I went as a +1 for her. When I got there, okay, I like to party. I like to dance. I don't drink alcohol, but you swear I look drunk sometimes. I even shock myself. But I like fun. And in there, I had so much fun and met amazing people. And then this woman says, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I was working for Upside Private Banker, but I resigned." We were dancing on the dance floor. She says, "Why?" I'm like, I was being bullied by my boss, laughing. She says, "Wanna come work for us?" I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I got a call on the Monday for an interview at F&B as a private banker. And I got in there, I got interviewed, and I got the job. So that's how I got into F&B as a banker. And they were launching their private bank, which lasted for about 2 years, and then they closed it down and then reopened it later on. So I was with them for just under 2 years, then left to go to Standard Bank. So I was a private banker for Absa, for Standard Bank, and then for F&B. But going back to Absa, I must say this. Before I left them, I said, well, the way that they're running this private bank might not be the best way, but maybe one day I'll come back and run it myself, Then as like a little retaliation kind of day as I was leaving. And I'm saying this because it did come out like that later on. Then I went at Standard Bank. I was lucky enough to be there as a private banker. Then I went into becoming a manager after that, a leader of people and running some of the branch networks and things like that. And in there, I thought one thing. I was always in the space of transformation. So in corporates, there's transformation champions that exist. And I was always chosen as one wherever I worked. I guess it's because I can speak openly, I can challenge how things are done. And Standard Bank, when I got in there, I took the same role, transformation once again. I was there in Absa as well before that. And in the space of leading people, and being in transformation, you then try to look at life differently now. Because you mentioned something about not holding grudges. I don't like holding grudges either. I forgive and move on with life. But if you don't understand what impacts people, that prevents them from being that best version of themselves in the work environment, you almost are not getting the best version of them at work. It's like a tapered down version, just confirm I do my job and leave, But once you get to know people truly into what drives them, what speaks to them, their value system, and being in transformation roles help me with that. because I could talk to people as human beings. What speaks to you? What are your issues that you have in the work environment? And at the time, I was pregnant with my daughter, and I needed to be understood because I got a bit of traditional, natural side of me. I was like, I'm going to breastfeed my kids. I will give birth naturally. I had all these things that I had listed for myself. And so when I gave birth to my daughter, the work environment was, I need to be able to go back and breastfeed her, even at work. And we had all these class offices. And for the first time, I realized that women are actually not being supported properly. So how am I going to express my milk in a classroom? I'm going to be seen. I can't go milk myself in the bathroom either. There's bacteria. And I had to go ask bosses, I need to express milk for my daughter in the room. And they were like, what's wrong with you? Why do you want that? I said, my daughter is at home. Lunchtime I can go breastfeed her. But while I'm not at home, she must have milk to be fed. And I must express at work. If I don't express, my boobs are going to explode. It was a weird case that I brought forward because it was like, why are you doing this? Like, no, it's important. Luckily, and the room was then assigned to women to be used in the building, a beautiful Kingsmead building, to then be able to go and express her milk or whatever I do for as a woman, not in the bathroom. Because mothers breastfeed in bathrooms mostly. Yeah. And I was that woman who would breastfeed in public as well.
and that I love that. I love that as an example. So there's a Sheryl Sandberg, Lean-In. So I love that example. She gives an example of coming into the office, very pregnant. Sergey and Larry Page are sitting trying to figure out the world's problems and whatever they're doing and their thing. And she's just pouring with sweat or whatever. She does a much better job, guys. We'll put the link to the book in the show notes here. But she says to them, guys, this is horrific. And they look at her and this is why there's no parking for pregnant women. Like, why am I parking out in the middle of nowhere? And they obviously have the Google complex and they got this massive. And they're like, oh, cool, yeah, do it.
There you go.
And you go. So they wouldn't. So again, like they couldn't, there's some things I don't know and some things I can't know.
Yes.
And they can't know that experience of being a pregnant woman and coming up in the Google Plexus. But at least they were open enough to do it. And it sounds like they were open enough to listen to you bringing this thing, which is great. That's amazing.
I think again, it goes back to being true to what you stand for. Because for me, I always say, I owe it to myself to be comfortable in this lifetime. Yes, life is rough. There'll be ups and downs. But if I'm not kind enough to myself, who will be kind to me? You know, and those things allow you to offer some kindness to yourself so you can do better.
And mothers, I've noticed this, or like mothers can find that actually quite hard because they put everyone in front of themselves.
Exactly.
Everyone. I use this with the team often, and I tell them that they're in charge of their own oxygen mask, and that in the plane when they give you that example when you're about to take off, or that when the oxygen mask comes on, you need to put yours on first before you can be of value to others.
Even to your own child.
They tell that to mothers, and mothers are supposed to listen to that. And then they say, well, listen, if you don't, everyone dies because you'll pass out while you're busy getting child on. They won't get it on properly, and you'll pass out, and you of no service to others. How has parenting evolved you?
You know, for me, parenting is a best gift. Really, truly, it is a gift. Often people think that we are, as parents, we are here to raise our children. I differ. I think our children are here to raise us, because in the journey of being a parent, your children are a mirror of who you are to yourself. And they play out these things to you. And if you can either choose to fight them or to embrace them. If you choose to embrace them, the power that comes from your children and how they help you to grow as a person and to find your own traumas and find your own issues and deal with them. And you realize, actually, my true self-healing journey has happened as a mother because my children allowed me the truth about myself to be seen. Because even friends are not that honest to you, but your kids are always honest to you. So for me, it's the biggest. I think parenting is the biggest gift for growth.
It's amazing. So, because I love the language you use, they're mirrors. They are the best mirrors. Like, they don't care. They will tell you how it is, what you're looking like, what you've said. They'll tell you everything. Kids say the darndest things. But also, I love the concept. I work with that, like that. Again, there's a yin and yang, because I'm very attached to my two boys, but I do feel they're mine. Like, I will, step in front of bullets for them and that sort of thing. But I'm also just a guide. They're not mine.
No, they're not yours.
They're not mine. I'm just a guide.
You are the guide. You are the person who is there to support their journey. Because honestly, I mean, I think for me, the biggest realization, or how I realized that I don't control much of my kids, is when my kids, when we were raised, we went to a private school first when they were young. And my daughter had this thing of, I'm a boy, and which was, as parents, like, okay, is she gay? She's too young to know any better. And then this one time I asked her, I think she must have been about 4 or 5. I said, no, 4. I think 3 or 4, not 5, 3 or 4. I said, why do you keep insisting that you're a boy? Because, I mean, she wore boys' uniform to school, only had boys as friends, played soccer with the boys, And then she says, I'm a boy because you want me to be a boy. I said, what do you mean I wanted to be a boy? She says, no, when I was in your tummy, you used to say you wish I was a boy. I said, no, never. I couldn't have, because I didn't even check your gender when I was pregnant with you. I didn't care whether a boy or a girl. He says, I remember. You would tell me that you wish I was a boy. So I want to be a boy so I can make you happy. And I thought, this is the weirdest thing. I told my sister, look, hey, my sister told me something weird. She says, oh, that's strange. So what do you mean? So my sister and I, the gap is quite large. She's 14 years older than me, I think. Yeah. And the other one's about, I think, 9 or 10 years. So I was like, much I was blessed. My mother had me at 46. So I was like a miracle child at that time, And then my sister says to me, look, my mother used to say that about you when we were pregnant. When she was pregnant with you, she would say that she hopes you'll be a boy because of my father will not leave her. That's why I'm like, something happened. Because I never said that to my daughter. But how does she know that? And I didn't know that until my sister told me that when I told her the story. I was like, that is the weirdest thing ever. So yeah, there's something about spirituality, life that we don't understand that happens. And I said to her, look, it wasn't me. The story you're telling me is my mother's story. It's not my story, but I understand where it comes from. And then fast forward, and also some of my friends thought I will be the first parent who will have a transgender child in this country, because she was so determined to be a boy. And the school was like, you need to do something about this. And at the time, there was that movement of gender neutral and what do you call it? The asexual people. Yeah, all start of that. And some doctor friends were saying, maybe you must explore having a transition to becoming a boy, because if she thinks she's a boy, she must be a boy. And later on, she's a girl. Life is unpredictable.
Sure.
Yeah.
What's some of the biggest learnings you've got from your kids?
I think the other one is that as a mother, you gotta give reasons why. Or as a parent, give reasons why. You don't just give something, and also share your own insecurities and share your own learnings. So maybe I'm too transparent. I do speak openly to my kids, because I wish my mother was open to me too. But if I look at my other friends who didn't have parents who were as open as me, I see how that has played out. And I got married to someone who had parents who were not as open as my parents were, and I saw how that can play out as an adult in life. And I think it's important as a parent to always, even if it's uncomfortable, tell the truth. But tell it in stages. Don't overwhelm.
Yes, not too much information.
But stagger it, because kids don't forget the lies.
Yeah, that's true. It's so true. So our family, the fundamental rule that I live by as well is tell the truth, or at least don't lie.
Yes.
And I still remember when I was told about the Easter Bunny and Father Christmas and stuff. And sorry to those listening, maybe we got to make this age restricted now on YouTube and stuff. Yes. But I didn't explain what I found out about them. That's okay. we've got a few things to still get through. And I first came into contact with you, I guess I watched you on stage at TEDx and you presented. But so you've been in corporate this whole time now, you've been speaking, and then transitioned. I saw Unilever, you were a financial director.
Yes.
And then from then on, tell me about the transition to entrepreneurship and where you are now.
So COVID happened 2020. And COVID took something from all of us, one or the other, And I was married 19 years at the time, that year. And sadly, I had to get divorced. So 2020, I got divorced. And I was still working as a finance director at Unilever at the time and working from home. And during COVID, if you're in finance, you do a lot of forecasting. And during COVID, because things were moving too quickly, the forecasting was all the time, like almost weekly now. And my working hours became quite stretched, overly stretched. And my kids were homeschooled. So I chose to get my kids out of mainstream school when this thing of my daughter being a boy became an issue and they couldn't have a gender-neutral toilet in the school. I was like, come out, we'll do it home, So with my kids being homeschooled and having that dad having left the home and now being at home alone with them, going through the emotional space, high demanding job, and a moment happened. I was working with my laptop and my headphones because we're always in meetings. And wherever I was cooking, I had my laptop with my hand, whatever I'm doing. I walked onto a pole at home and I bumped myself and I fell back. I truly believed that was God. Because I think I passed out for like a few seconds and then I came back up. I had a bump. Oh. I went to a doctor. I was off for a few days at work. But during that time, I realized if I had died at that moment, what would have happened in my life with my kids? The job would have replaced me immediately, replaced with someone else. My kids would lose a parent and they're going through a life transitioning moment. And what am I doing? Where's my life going? I had to now start thinking, what is happening with my life? What is this? But in that, even though I was in corporate, I always had a side hustle, some business. My husband and I, at the time, we found the chairman club in Durban. We did that together, did very, very well. There's always something I'm involved in on the side. I thought, look, the corporate job, I've done a lot of things in banking. I did my ultimate job. Eventually, I was like, I'm done. I went to Unilever to understand how factories worked, how production works. And I was there 2.5 years at the time. I thought to myself, what more can I get from corporate? I can go up the ladder, but the higher you go, the more demanding work becomes for you. And the less time we spend with your kids, the less time we spend with the family. And my kids were now getting to like a pre-teen kind of ages. I thought, look, I've got to make a decision. I can either also pursue the things that speak to my heart. And because corporates, yes, you do get a good paycheck, good share options, good money, you accumulate wealth. But inside, I've always had this thing of wanting to live life in my own terms, And I thought there is no better time than now. And I decided, then let me just leave corporate and then go and explore on my own. And I decided I resigned. And I got into, firstly, it was a business with my old church bishop, a bit of mining. We bought a mining share in Zambia. Mining is costly. You lose money. I lost some money there. But that's how I got into entrepreneurship. So through mining at the time, then in that, other things came through. I got involved into another business in renewable energy and security as well now. And I'm on a few boards. But with that being said, I always had the passion to still empower and mentor and coach entrepreneurs. So I do some coaching on the side, not much, minimal, of someone that is probably, I like the journey off. But the reason why I left corporate was to explore the different ideas that live in this head of mine and so how far they take me.
Okay, so it ties into your theme of freedom, I think.
Yes, exactly.
And just to touch quickly on the homeschooling, because I know, Luke, you have experience here, you could probably weigh in on the homeschooling. And because it's very interesting. I find it very interesting. You still subscribe to that?
Yeah, I do. I still do. So for me, if you look at again, I did say I'm not a very conformist person. The education system, I think it's a scam at some level, because the information that your child gets taught in school, how much of that is being used in life? It's almost like it was designed to babysit kids while parents are going to work. That's how I see the education system. Keep them busy enough while the parents are working. When they're older, they then figure out where they want to go to for work. So because of that, I thought, based on that concept, education can be made to be flexible. But I can't do that in a formal setting. But if I homeschool the kids, then we can do that. And we did exactly that. We got in, I hired a teacher, I had a classroom at home, and then she could do whatever she felt like doing for the kids and just learn the basics. So the basic skills are your language, it's mathematics, it's the arts, it's the drawing arts and music. I believe those 4 skills are the most important skills for a child to have, which then inform who you become later on in life. The rest can be learned along the way. And that's what I explored.
And I think, that's interesting, because the old way of schools were the 3 R's, the read, write, and arithmetic, which is not an R, but it has lots of R's in it.
Exactly.
So the new education, as I understood it, was the C's, and there might be 4 or 6 of these, I actually forget, but the focus is communication, collaboration, critical thinking.
Yes.
And there's one more that I will find. I'll maybe put a link to that in the show notes too. And then there was a bonus one, which was coding, and that's actually up for debate right now with AI.
Yes.
But I mean, so you very much love that. How much of the curriculum do you approve or get involved with?
Well, my kids don't call me mom; they call me ma'am. Yeah. Because I was a school principal at home.
Okay.
It's quite funny. But anyway, coming back, the teacher that my kids had, it was simple. There's a school curriculum, but don't worry about it. All we need are their basic skills. They must do music. They must do something creative. So in the arts, whether it's drawing or whatever, they must do something physical. They must do their mathematics and languages. Because they must communicate with people in different languages. So they do English, they do Mandarin as well, and Zulu. Then they must do mathematics. And then the music will help with the other skills that they require. That was a brief. And then she could do whatever she wanted to do. There was no fixed timetables or whatever. And I mean, even now my kids didn't negotiate. We won't do this way. And then we went to the Cambridge also curriculum for their last years of high school, because if they're going to be studying overseas, Cambridge does help. And nicely with Cambridge, you do 5 subjects, then 3 in the end.
Okay.
Just in depth, because those 3 become your career. So that for me makes logical sense. Not writing 9 subjects in matric, it doesn't make sense to me. Why? For what reason? So, yeah.
I love that, being able to customize it a bit. So just clarification on those 4 C's, I quickly put that in. It's critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration.
Perfect. That makes sense.
I'm not sure which one I missed, but there was something about, and this might transition quite nicely into the case study that you've chosen, but I don't know if you want to get into, I will, because it's a very interesting ad and that sort of, so exploring the world and how that allowed you to explore yourself.
Yes, exactly. So growing up, Peter Stuyvesant is a cigarette. I don't smoke. It's a cigarette advert that they used to spend money on those adverts. And those adverts would show you snippets of different locations in the world. Brazil, you see the carnival, you go to different locations. And it was almost like an escape for me to see what the world has to offer. And it made me curious to say, look, the world has more to offer. Where I live cannot limit me. That's why I had this drive to always want to do more and go explore more. And I love travel. And I always travel. If for a chance, I travel. And my kids started travel at a very young age, because I was trying to instill the sameness of the world is bigger than yourself. And why, for me, travel plays a bigger role, it's you realize how small you are. Because to yourself, you're big. You think it starts and ends with me. When you realize how vast this world is, you realize, actually, I'm nothing. I'm just a being trying to figure it out along the way somewhere. It humbles you, but it also allows you to explore and connect with people at their level. So I travel, but I try and avoid going to your typical tourist places. I like the local communities in Vietnam. I spend time with the local people, picking rice and cooking with them. I like that kind of experiential travel, and because for me, a human being is so diverse, but we all share one thing in common. We share love for ourselves and for our families. We also share the vision of sustaining this world and making it last long enough. And in Asia, which is my biggest passion of the part of the world, whenever I'm there, it's interesting, I'm African. But when I'm in Asia, I somehow get a connection of myself with it. I spent some time, I went to China, I went to the outlying parts of China on my own. And I got to a point where when you go towards your rural China, it's more the Mongol side of China. When you get to understand their culture a bit more, you should kind of see a bit of Nguni culture coming through too. And I think to yourself, actually, we think we're different. We're quite one. Even how we pray and how we worship our ancestors. I'm like, how we do the same thing too? We do the same thing too. We are so one. And you realize that I thought I was so unique. I'm not. We are the same, actually. We are all one.
Yeah, I love that. Every night, I'm fortunate enough to travel to Hawaii a few times in my life. And some stages when I was able to remind the Hawaiians that everything came from Africa. So they were actually African in a way. But yeah, so it is interesting that it went all the way to China and that it's kept alive in that way. We'll transition now to the ad, which we'll play on now. And this is the video version will be in the show notes. But this was what you had experienced predominantly was a radio ad, and it was in isiZulu. But you can, guys, listen to this. It's podcast audio first, but we got this on YouTube, so you'll be able to see it there. But the escapism and the experience is something that I picked up when
it is,
and we'll talk about it afterwards. Okay.
When it's sun up in Malibu, it's midnight in Monte Carlo. When Rio strips for the day, LA rides the high-rolling sky. If you seek snow with Go, ski hop the Alps from chalet to peak. Or play the world wherever the urge hits you. In Saint-Tropez, you sport the bare necessities. And Ipanema wears a honey tan while you watch your man. Or race the Côte d'Azur. And chase the smiles all the way to Carnival, Brazil. Down under in the Red Sea, jet ride through a mirage of color. Get that wonderful Stuyvesant feeling, the pace of the young, fun world. From the snow runs of Phlegm to the coral reefs of the Red Sea. The vibrant and racy world of Peter Stuyvesant, the international passport to smoking pleasure.
What year was
1985.
that? 85.
I was in the 80s.
That ad would never fly now. We don't have the attention span, eh?
No,
Yeah,
it's too long.
That might be. So let's say we'll again have this in the show notes, and you can check it out yourself, guys. But it wouldn't fly now because you can't advertise cigarettes. But I found this very interesting as well. I don't know if YouTube are going to allow us to fly that. But very interesting. There's a book Martin Lindstrom called Biology, so Reasons Why We Buy. I think it is in that book that he talks about cigarettes and the branding and how they've led the way, specifically in like subliminal branding.
Yes.
And that because they had to move away from being explicit, I think alcohol, I used to work at TBWA and we worked on tops as an account, and they were always worried about alcohol being suffering the same thing that cigarettes you stop advertising.
Well, my worry right now, I think alcohol is there already, and I think it's overly done. I'm not saying it should be changing, but maybe we should taper it down a bit because it's almost over promoting. Because during that era, smoking was everywhere. And when the laws changed, smoking became less. Yeah. And alcoholism right now is everywhere. Maybe if we change things, we might find people drinking less because where's the future going to go to? Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, so I'm with you on that 100%. And this will be in conflict to a lot of people that I'm around and work with. And I know people that work on those accounts and it's their livelihood and stuff. So, but if I point to the numbers, the alcohol is the most dangerous drug there is.
Yes.
Statistically, again, it is, and maybe because it's the most accessible and all of that. But so there's probably lots of reasons for it. But again, your point is taken that the diminishing of advertising and explicit communication of cigarettes has dropped the purchase and not smoking. Now there's other things now that people vape and all that sort of stuff, which is potentially worse. I don't know.
They say it is.
But that ad, we look at it we look at our principles that we've got 6 principles in marketing, and one of the first ones that just comes as experiences. So in listening to that, you could hear them talking about the Red Sea and and if you were in KwaMashu and you'd never heard of these things, and that was the first time you're hearing it, you just imagine that.
For me, I would spend. The radio was very important. It was one thing that would spend time. Even my sister would sleep with the radio under her pillow to listen, just to be connected to the world. This, for me, these adverts were almost like my window to the world, what the world could offer. And there were magazine versions of the same adverts as well, obviously. And I had this notion of, I want to see Brazil. I want to go see Monte Carlo. I want to see all these places because they exist. I didn't have a how I would do that, obviously. But I knew that in my life, in future, I want to see all of these things. And that's where my need for travel came from. But also a need to explore your desires in a responsible way. Yes, for cigarettes as such, but removing the cigarette out of it is really your hobbies that speak to what you do. I mean, my own hobbies, I really have my own that I like to do. I like my walking. I'm a tea drinker. I make my own teas. I go mix, you can see. I've got concoctions. I go find herbs. I create my own experiences. Whenever I travel, I go explore how these things are being done in different places. I'm always wanting to know how else could I do something? And if you leave your environment that you're comfortable in and go to new spaces, you'll find new ways of getting things done. And these adverts allowed me a chance to escape and to know what the world has to offer. And when I'm bored at home right now, I spend time on YouTube because YouTube is almost like escapism once again as well. You can go see anything you want to see and explore it. Even from a business perspective as well, we can get new ideas coming through. So that was my.
I mean, what you would have heard this at nauseam probably, but we have more access to information than the US president had in the early 2000s. Just on our phones.
Even recently with genocide.
They
didn't know much.
So that access to information essentially should make us way smarter. We have access to make way better decisions and escape. Yes, you can escape, but what we were talking about is that openness to go somewhere. And I love the ads talking about Saint-Tropez and the Red Sea and all these places. I would have just lit you up, and you just didn't know what that place was like, but you could go and explore it.
Yes.
So I have fond memories of those ads, going to movies and seeing those ads, and so that even that music, that soundtrack, it brings back that nostalgia to me. Yeah, so that does tie into your openness of it. So entrepreneurs are often, the traits are common that they are creative, disagreeable, which we've explored, yeah, and then conscientious. So you get stuff done, you actually go and do the thing, and you said you're going to do. And then openness is a trait, like it's open to ideas and being wrong
and trying new things,
Jump
and
off
just
the cliff
honestly
and
trying.
Playing on the way down.
There's always a new way of doing something, and sometimes people are scared of that. And I found it in my time in corporate. Openness isn't always encouraged. This is how things are done. This is how it's always been done. You must try and do it that way, but it limits exploration and innovation. And when you're outside of that environment, then it's like rules are there, but from far away, I've got so much space to play in and explore how far I can take things. And for me, that's what living is. You got to push limits. If you fail, you failed according to your own measure, but you can still, life continues. You can still keep on living and try something different, something new once again.
Yeah, as long as you learn.
As long as you learn along the way.
Yeah.
Because really, failing is really learning. I won't say it's failing. It's learning. It's okay, I did it wrong this way. Okay, next time I'll do it differently this way. It is how, even kids, they go open themselves first and they know the stove is hot. You know, it's part of life.
Yeah, that optimism is definitely something of an entrepreneurship. So an entrepreneur, the glass is always half full.
Yes.
It's always half full.
You can never give up.
I'm going to transition to your quote. I love this quote. Life is beautiful. Reach deeper into it and remain curious.
Yes.
So that's yours.
That is mine. That is me. That is, when I was younger, I've always looked at life as beautiful. I mean, even today, when I wake up in the morning, when I look at the sunshine come out, I get happy. I always say, I feel like I'm a child sometimes. I should get happy, like, ooh, it's so nice and sunny today. I'm going to go for a walk. I get excited. Not because there's something that I'm going to gain in return, but because really, if you look at life, there's a blessing and a miracle that happens in life every day. And it might be a bird just standing and sitting on your window in the morning as the first thing that you see. It's a miracle. If you look for miracles in life, you will see them every day. And that knowing life is beautiful gives me that reminder that if you look for the beauty, it's always there. And reach deeper. There's more to life than what I may be putting my perception of it on. As I dig deep into something, I speak to you, John, about your views on something, I might change my mind. In doing that, I have reached and opened a space I wouldn't have opened before about myself or into my life that if I didn't speak to you, I wouldn't have known about. So by allowing myself to try and hear different views, I'm living deeper and deeper into my fears sometimes, into things that scare me the most. And then as I then remain curious and understand, why does John think this way? Then, that's where it's coming from. I don't need to hate anybody or hold a grudge because everyone comes from a point of their own reference. It is our lens that makes us see the world the way we see it. It can't be a crime. Really, it can't be. And if you sit like that, you can't have enemies. You don't hate anybody. You embrace people for who they truly are.
Sure. I absolutely love that. I love that. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that I should have asked you?
I think for me, it's I've got many friends who are in corporate who say you are mad to have left corporate and go on your own because you're going to struggle. And I will say, yes, I've struggled. I struggle sometimes with cash flow and other things. It's worth it. Living life in your own terms, living life according to the way you want to define it for yourself and explore the things that you wouldn't be allowed to explore because where you are, it belongs to somebody else. I think it's worth it. And this country requires more entrepreneurs to thrive. We can't all, and there aren't enough jobs for all of us. So I truly believe that if we all understand that we are the solution to all of our problems, we'll all become entrepreneurs one or the other.
Oh, I love that. I think just to the audience, like they don't have to do it right now. We can plan. It took a while for you to get there and make this leap. Eh? You got the experience.
Yes.
So we're not saying run away from your corporate job.
Plan for it. Plan for it.
But get ready.
And pursue the
plan
things. For me, don't live a life of regret. If you have this dream that you want to chase, and we say, at some point, some things don't matter as much. Yes, up the ladder works, you can trace it. But as you get older, you realize that there's more to life than working. Work and money are the means for livelihood. I need to live. Money allows me to live. But if in your place of chasing money, you're no longer living, then what's the point of being alive, So where if you find yourself in a space of, I'm no longer feeling fulfilled, go try something new, reinvent yourself and do something else. There's no right or wrong.
Perfect. And lastly, who are your incredible machines?
Actually, my kids, first and foremost. They're my incredible machines because they keep me awake. And I've got some good friends. I've got a good friend of mine, Wendy. Good voice of reason, my older sister. Quite honest as well in how she is. And then my other one is my own head. Because my head generates many ideas all the times. And I got something new to discover and explore and take wherever. I'm like, dear God, this head, what's going on in this head? Yeah, if money wasn't an issue, I might have 20,000 businesses that might work or might not work, who knows? But I would have tried them at least.
Amazing. Okay. Well, thanks so much. It's been incredible.
No, thank you for having me here, John. I appreciate what you're doing. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Well done for this.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
The incredible Mpume Zwane Langa.
That's me.